At 9:40 on a Thursday morning, William picked up a single page and quietly closed a door on Camilla. Somewhere inside the household offices, a name had already been penciled onto an official roster. By the end of that same week, the name was gone, and the woman who placed it there walked away with nothing. Honestly, to understand why William moved the way he did, you have to go back much further than this week. You have to go back to a wound that never healed. Diana was the mother of a future king. For years inside her own marriage, she was treated like the one who was in the way. There was always a third presence, always someone standing just behind the door. And that someone now wears the crown by marriage, not by blood, not marriage. Remember that phrase because the whole story turns on it. Charles married Camilla in 2005. Diana had died 8 years before that, in August of 1997. So by the time Camilla took her place beside the king, an entire generation already remembered exactly who she had been to that marriage. The public did not forget. William did not forget either. Now look, here is what Camilla quietly tried to do. She began pushing behind palace doors for her own son to be handed an official royal patron role. His name is Tom Parker Bowles. He is 50 years old, born in 1974, a food writer and critic who has spent his whole adult life outside the royal family. A patron role is not a small honour. When a royal becomes the official patron of a charity, they lend the full weight of the crown to it. That endorsement only means something because the person giving it carries the blood of the house. And that is the line Camilla tried to step over. She wanted the family roster opened, not to Diana's allies, to her own child. The argument she made sounded reasonable on the surface. The working family has shrunk to almost nothing. Harry is in California, gone from royal duties entirely. Andrew has been pushed out of public life for good. Charles is 76 and fighting cancer, with his schedule cut down by doctors. So Camilla whispered that the family was in crisis, that William and Anne could not carry the weight alone, that her capable, media-trained son could simply step in and help. But honestly, the more you sit with it, the colder it gets, because the gap she pointed to was real. The solution she offered served her blood, not the institution. And here is the part that still aches for the people who lived through it. Diana gave her life to that family and got nothing back but suspicion. If you watched that funeral in September of 1997, you remember the small white card resting on the coffin that simply said, "Mummy." William was 15 years old when he walked behind that coffin in front of the entire world, his eyes fixed on the pavement. He has carried that mourning every single day since. A boy who learned far too young how the family treats the people it decides are not truly one of its own. Now, look, we cannot say the palace ran this exactly the way the story describes. None of this has been confirmed by anyone at the household. But what is documented is the wound itself. And the wound has never closed. That is the part no press office can deny. So the question hanging over everything was simple. Would the son of the woman who replaced Diana be allowed to represent the crown? And honestly, this is where the family stopped being polite and started becoming a battlefield. To understand William now, you have to understand what that 15-year-old became. He did not rage. He did not give interviews. He buried it. He waited. He learned the machinery of the family from the inside, piece by piece, with the patience of someone who knew his moment would come. People close to him describe a man who plans the way others breathe. Quiet, methodical, never showing the blade until it is already moving. And when this proposal landed, he did not act alone. He picked up the phone and called the one person in that family colder than he is. Princess Anne dated Andrew Parker Bowles before Andrew ever married Camilla. That is real. That is on the public record. And 50 years later, Anne would be the first ally William reached for. Honestly, you could not invent a cleaner thread of history. The two of them have spent decades watching the same boundary erode. Anne has built 50 years of flawless service on one belief. The rules are not bureaucracy. The rules are the only thing standing between the crown and chaos. According to people familiar with the household, the two of them moved together within days. They refused to sign the proposal. Then they did something far sharper than a simple no. They demanded a full audit of how the recommendation was made. Had it gone through the proper councils? Had the background checks been done? Or had it been quietly fast-tracked under the cover of a staffing crisis? That single question changed everything, because the moment they asked it, the proposal had no ground left to stand on. Sources describe a quiet review opened under the Household Appointments Office, handled by a senior clerk, the staff referred to only as the keeper of the roster. Every box that should have been ticked, they checked. And one by one, the boxes came back empty. The normal safeguards, the ones built specifically to stop favoritism, had not been fully used. Whether every detail of that review happened exactly this way, we cannot independently confirm. But the pattern is unmistakable. The proposal was built on personal influence, and personal influence does not survive a paper trail. And here is a phrase that says the whole thing in one breath. She married into the crown. She never married into the bloodline. Now hold on, because this next part is where William turned defense into total victory. Blocking the son still left the staffing gap unsolved. A weaker man stops there and lets the crisis fester. William did the opposite. He reached inside the bloodline and pulled out the perfect answer. He proposed Peter Phillips, the oldest grandson of the late Queen Elizabeth II, the son of Princess Anne herself. And here is what makes Peter so devastating as a choice. He has never held a royal title in his life. He built a real career in the outside world, more than 20 years of it, working at Jaguar, at Williams in Formula One, and as a managing director in the sports business. He is blood of the house, but he earned his standing like an ordinary man. Raised by Anne to need nothing from the crown, and alongside Peter, William brought forward Peter's wife, Harriet Sperling. Harriet is a pediatric nurse. Think about how rare that is inside palace walls. It's real clinical experience, real frontline knowledge of children's health. And that detail is sharper than it first appears. Catherine's signature work has been the Royal Foundation Centre for Early Childhood, built around early childhood and children's well-being. With Catherine still balancing her recovery against her duties, there was a quiet hole opening in exactly that area. Harriet could step straight into it, a nurse filling the gap left by a princess. Blood, not marriage. What William built has been described as an associate model. Peter and Harriet take no money from the public purse. They take no titles that could anger the public or cost the taxpayer a single pound. They serve as specialists, lending their skills to chosen causes, and every appearance they make passes through William's own press office first. Total control, total alignment, no precedent broken. And honestly, look at the contrast. Camilla's plan needed the rules bent, the bloodline blurred, and a door open that would never close again. William's plan cost nothing broke nothing, and was carried entirely by people born to the house. He did not just block her son, he proved her son was never needed. So the staffing crisis Camilla had been selling behind closed doors, it evaporated. Here are two people, properly vetted, properly placed, ready to serve for free and born of the bloodline. What exactly was the problem now? The only problem left was that Camilla's son was no longer part of the answer. What happened next moved with a quiet, almost surgical finality. Faced with William and Anne standing as one wall and faced with a flawless alternative already in motion, the proposal for Tom Parker Bowles collapsed under its own weight. Pushing any further would have dragged the whole matter into a formal council fight, and that was a fight Camilla could not win in daylight. Picture the moment it ended. A roster sheet on a desk inside the household offices, a single name near the bottom. At 11:15 one morning, a thin line was drawn through that name in plain black ink. No announcement, no statement, just one quiet stroke of a pen, and a mother's whole campaign was over. That is the image the staff will remember: the pen, the time, the line through the name. We cannot say with certainty that this exact scene played out down to the minute. Royal gossip has a way of hardening speculation into accepted fact over time. But what is not in dispute is the result. The bid was withdrawn. Camilla stepped back from the negotiations, and the door she had tried to open was shut for good. According to insiders, when it became clear the audit would expose everything, the room around Camilla went very still. She had built her case on the idea that the family was desperate. William handed her two people who proved the family was fine. There was nothing left to demand. She asked for a meeting. She asked for flexibility. She got the paper trail instead. And now, here is the part most coverage leaves out. Most people assumed Charles would step in to protect his wife. He is the king. It is her son. Surely he would shield her. He did not. Honestly, he did the opposite of what everyone expected. King Charles was reportedly satisfied with how it ended. He let the system do the rejecting, so he never had to. He praised the arrangement with Peter and Harriet, called it a sign of family unity, and quietly sealed the matter on William's side. The man who was supposed to defend Camilla simply stepped aside and let her lose. That is the twist nobody saw coming. So what does all of this really tell us? Camilla raised a crisis. The crisis vanished the moment her son did. The work went on without him. The line held exactly where it always held. For years, William has insisted on one thing in private. Camilla wears the crown and deserves the respect of her office, but her children from another marriage are private citizens. Guests at the table, never part of the machinery. Blood, not marriage. That was the rule from the beginning, and it is the rule that won. And honestly, the most telling detail is the simplest one. A boy once walked behind his mother's coffin while that family decided who counted and who did not. Decades later, that same boy decided it himself. And this time, the people who counted were hers. So tell me in the comments, where were you when you heard the news in August of 1997? Because the people who lived it are the only ones who truly understand what this week really meant.